What's up, dudes? Welcome to the Takeover. We're back. This is a special. This is gonna be a special episode. This is gonna be a really special episode that I'm really excited. I don't know how long this will go. This might go 1 or 2 episodes. It could even go 3 episodes long. It could be like a 3-part series, kind of like, like a little HBO special or a mini series or something like that. Whatever. So this could go 3, 2, 1. It could go 1. I don't even know. I'm kind of just going with the flow of things. But welcome back, guys. Thank you for everybody that's been listening on Apple Music. The numbers are rising. I appreciate that. Maybe that's because I'm posting the videos on Instagram. You could follow the Takeover Pod on Instagram, the Takeover Pod. Message me on the Takeover Pod for any questions or ideas or whatever. Hashtag the Takeover Pod on Twitter and at Michael Lenoci. And leave those 5-star reviews. I appreciate those. And subscribe to my YouTube channel because that's where I post all these videos. So all the Takeover episodes are on YouTube. You could watch them. I think that these next few episodes are episodes you're going to want to watch. If you're listening, you can still listen. It will still work. But there's definitely going to be a lot of pieces that you're going to want to see because it's kind of like a docu-series that I'm doing. And I'll get into that later, but I just want to give you a heads up that if you are listening, this is part 1 of the little series. I don't know if there might only be 1 part. Whatever. We'll figure it out. But what's up? What's today? Today is Sunday. For me, it is Sunday, April 5th. I got my homemade mask. So you can cough. It's a bandana. So I got my bandana. I got a few bandanas. I got a little Wade jersey here. I've always had, for my dog Wade, he's always had a Heat jersey. This is to protect. So you can cough, you can sneeze into the bandanas. If you don't have a bandana, if you don't have one of them, that's fine. You're not supposed to buy a mask, but I have a bandana. I think it looks cool too. I'm vibing right now. I feel cool. I feel cool wearing it. So that's the look. I think maybe that's the look I'll be doing over the next few weeks because I want to get used to having it. Maybe I'll even sleep with it. You never know. Maybe you got to be safe sleeping with your bandana or your mask. I mean, I got to be honest. I wish I had one of those cool masks. I mean, everybody's got these like cool these cool masks that look like that, like you look like you're Bane from Batman. You got those or the ones where like it just looks like you could survive everything with those masks. I mean, people are wearing these masks and I'm like, well, wow, they could fight fires and they could be in a chemical warfare or some shit. I don't know. Like with the bandana, it's just like, what are you gonna rob somebody or something? I don't know. Whatever. But like that's the deal. So I got my bandanas, but I'm excited because I got a lot of free time, and the story is a couple years ago I did some allergies. I don't have it. Relax. It's so ridiculous that you can't sneeze, you can't cough, you can't do anything without someone being like, you have it. You have it. No. You have it because of the way you sneezed. You got it. What else? Louis' special came out yesterday. That was pretty fucking good, man. I watched it. You can watch it. You can buy it for $7.99, or if you know people, they'll send you the link. It was really good. Despite what you believe or think, not what you believe, but the facts are there. But whatever you think of the guy, still one of the best to ever do it, and it's fun to watch that. So check that out if you want. I like watching his stand up, and that's what I have to say about him. So here's the deal. So this is so a couple of years ago, I've always had like a lot of footage of myself, and it doesn't matter, I don't know why. I guess everybody does from my generation growing up, but I mean I even have footage from when I was a little kid to when I was like in middle school, high school, to when I first moved out to LA. And throughout doing stand-up, I obviously have a lot of footage throughout my career. So the story here is I moved to LA. I got to LA April 18th, 2010. So here we are, April 5th, 2020. So we're coming up on 10 years that I moved to LA. So I thought it'd be cool to like put something together with all the footage that I have. I even got some interviews of myself and Chris D'Elia and my buddy Ian Edwards, just kind of talking about stand-up and being an opener and whatnot. So I think it's pretty informative with all the information and footage I got for some of you guys that are really big stand-up fans. And for those of you who have been loyal listeners, like in season 2, the people I met, there was a lot of information about stand-up. So if you were a big fan of season 2 of The Takeover, this kind of touches a little bit on that on season 2 a little bit. So, and then this is a little bit more real. It's more about me. So you get to really know everything about me. It's really like everything, my whole story. So, it's something that maybe in the future, when I get bigger, people will look back and be like, oh, this is cool. He had all this footage. We get to look back. And you can see the growth in stand up, so to speak. Everybody gets better. You don't really see everybody get better in stand up because like you're with them all the time, but you do if you don't see someone over a long time. Like when I go back home, people see me do stand up. It's probably they see the growth there. But that point being, I have a bunch of footage, so I figured why not? I have a bunch of time. Let me put together this stuff. So I'll talk about it on the podcast, and then I'll so the podcast will be like this episode or next episode, however long it takes. I'll be talking about the journey, and then I'll cut footage into it. So the audio will still be there, but that's why I suggest watching it. If you are a listener, keep listening too, but I would suggest watching it because you're gonna get to see some old footage of like my first few times on stage, some of my first time doing theater gigs with Chris, the process through Montreal of getting JFL, some of these old videos that if you've known me for a while, I've posted some old footage of me when I had like this Tom Green show, but we'll get into that. But you'll see. So there's a lot of cool footage that I think you guys will enjoy. So I mean, and it starts off like as a kid. I mean, I think everybody you want to think about like how you how did you know you were funny? How did you get into comedy? And ever since I can remember, I was always silly. I mean, and I even as a kid, maybe I was 3. I think I have the earliest footage of me is I'm 3, and my dad has a camcorder, and he was really into it because they just came out. It was maybe 1987, 88, and he's got footage of me, and I just loved being on his camera. Like I would jump around, and he would even be trying to film some other stuff, and I would jump in front of the camera. Like I loved being in front of the camera, and I would just stare at it. So I think that started as an early age. I was always goofy and silly. But then learning about comedy, I mean, growing up, I would watch movies. I mean, some of the first movies I watched, The Mask, not the first movies I watched, but some of the first actor I knew, I was like, whoa, I love this guy, was Jim Carrey. But the comedy I grew up on was like Airplane, or all the Naked Guns. Those were so funny to me, and I have early memories of watching those with my dad, and my dad was a big fan of comedy, and not so much stand up, but just watching the movies. So we'd watch all those hit movies, but a lot of Liam Nielsen, is that his name? I'm bad with fucking words and names, but his movies were great, and we loved all the Naked Guns, and Airplane we'd watch, and then dude, it even got into, Adam Sandler's movies in the beginning, and then Jim Carrey's movies, and then Michael Myers, Austin Powers movies. So I was always a big fan of comedy, which is weird because the older you get and the more into comedy you get, the less comedies you watch. It's strange, and I think that's true for most comedians. Like I like watching dramas more often. But as a kid, like I remember an exact moment. I remember watching specials, not maybe the whole thing. I didn't really watch a lot of stand-up, but I remember always seeing George Carlin because HBO. HBO was, that's where I would want to watch everything because it had everything cool was on HBO. I didn't watch like Seinfeld. I didn't watch Friends in the 90s. I didn't watch a lot of television shows because I was into playing with toys. I was always playing with toys. I had an imagination, and I was just in my own world and didn't care about TV. and then I didn't care about TV shows. So I got into sports a little bit. I'd watch sports, but for the most part, if I did watch TV, I want to watch HBO because there was always a lot of cool content on HBO. There was movies and stuff, and I remember like my dad would let me watch some like rated R movies at an early age, maybe like 10 or 11. He wouldn't care, 11 or But I always remember seeing specials. Specials were big on HBO, and George Carlin had so many. So I always see him, and I remember watching it, and I would laugh. But looking back, there's no way I knew what the hell he was talking about, especially his later specials, in the early 90s, like he was political, talking about religion. I didn't, there's no way I understood it, but for whatever reason, I remember watching it. I remember watching George Carlin. I remember watching one of Chris Rock's. Maybe I was a little bit older at that point. And then I also remember watching Ellen. Ellen was one of the first specials. I remember watching the special. I don't know what year it came out, but she was talking about how you can't eat popcorn slowly. You always want to shove it in your mouth.
We must shovel handfuls of it into our mouth.
And I loved her observations, and that made me laugh a lot. But then I remember a specific night, we were up late because I used to watch a lot of SNL. And Saturday Night Live, I was home because I didn't go out because I wasn't in high school yet. So in middle school, like from like 6th grade, 5th grade to like 8th grade, I was watching a lot of SNL with my dad because on Saturday nights, that's what you did. You stop in high school because you start hanging out with your friends. So I didn't watch it as much. So, but during that time, it was like Sherry O'Terry and Will Ferrell doing the cheerleader stuff.
Spartan checkup! Take a chance, drop your pants, pee in the cup. Dr. Spartan's in the house and he will fix you up. Break it down now. Spartan fever.
So I would see that era, whatever that is. I think it's like maybe from 95 to 99. Like that was probably some of the best years of SNL in its prime because you had Will Ferrell in there, and he's one of the probably all-time greats. And so I'm watching a lot of SNL, and then sometimes we'd watch stand-up would come on, and maybe like these stand-up shows where they would showcase comics, and who knows who I was watching. But I remember asking my dad, I was like, so he just, I was like, does he just come on stage and like just perform, like he's just talking, he just goes up and talks and everybody thinks he's funny just because like he's able to like just say whatever he just is speaking his mind and everybody's laughing? And my dad was like, no, it's like written, it's a routine, like he prepared it and then he went out and did it, and he like tested it out and kind of explained it, but I still didn't understand it. I still didn't know. I was like, well, what is that really? Like, oh, he wrote it and then went out and did it once and it worked. I didn't know that there was a whole process. And I don't think a lot of people necessarily do. I think some people learn it, but some people don't. I mean, I hear about it when I'm on the road sometimes. Like, I think some people don't realize that when they see a comedian, he does that same show every night. For instance, like when you go see a comedian do an hour on the road, he's doing that hour every single night when he's on the road all over. Like you're tweaking little things like here and there, but you're doing the same thing. It's a routine. So some people don't even know that. So I think that's always revealing to some people who don't know anything about comedy. So that was that in that moment when my dad was telling me that, I was like, oh my God, that's interesting. And in that moment I said, I want to do that to myself. I said, I want to do that. There's no doubt in my mind. I want to do that. Because at that point, I was already a class clown. I'm in middle school. Like I was always making people laugh in class. I don't remember specifically, but if it was falling back on the chair or interrupting the teacher, saying something that was just funny in the moment, being silly. I remember when Half Baked came out and I was in middle school, I was able to do like a Jim Brewer impression, and everybody came up to me. They're like, do it. And I was able to like do it really, really good.
Graham crackers, just the marshmallows, the little marshmallows, and little chocolate bars, and we'll make some s'mores, man.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, yo.
Also, celery, grape jelly, Captain Crunch with the little crunch berries. Pizzas, we need 2 big pizzas, man. Everything on them with water, a whole lot of water, and Funyuns.
So like, whatever I was doing, I was always a class clown. And then I remember learning about that, and then I remember specifically one of my sister's friends was over the house one time, and they were getting ready to go to college because I think they were like seniors. And, you know, seniors in high school are all thinking about like, what are you going to be? What are you going to want to do? What are you going to go to college for? You got to start thinking about that stuff. And I'm in 8th grade or something, and I remember like we were all hanging out at my house. It's like Christmas break, and for Christmas Eve we would have an open house. People were allowed to hang out and stuff. We were allowed to have friends over, and his name is Joe Paterno, and I still know him today. We're Facebook friends. I haven't seen him for a few like definitely some years, but he's a great guy. But I remember specifically he said to me, he was like, what do you want to do? Do you know what you want to do yet? And I was like, I want to be a comedian. And he's like, you want to be a comedian? He's like, that's really hard. You know what you have to do. Like, he's like, say something funny right now. And I go, I didn't have anything. I go, I don't know. He goes, you'll never be a comedian. You have to be able to be funny just like that. That's what he said. And he's like, you'll never be able to, because you couldn't say something funny right there. And I was like, okay. And in my head, I was like, I'll show you. And I was like, I'm 100% going to be a stand-up comedian. I knew for a fact. And around that time, I was making these little videos. I was making these Tom Green videos. Tom Green was a huge hit in '99, right? That's when he blew up. And I was a huge fan of his show.
This is the Tom Green Show. It's not the Green Tom Show. This is my favorite show because it's my show. If this was your show, you'd probably like it more than I did. That's just because it was your show. But it's not your show. It's the Tom Green Show.
I loved it so much. I would watch it. Sometimes I hated missing it. Like, it would fucking bother me so much. But I created my own show called The White Boys Show with my buddy.
White boys! 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 White boys!
And we go around the neighborhood. We go to like grocery stores or shopping centers and walk around. And nothing was really written. We were just kind of sitting around and go, this would be funny. Let's try this. You know what I mean? Like, we were just trying to come up with ideas. And then like I had like a little beginning of the show where I would be like, oh, hey, welcome to the White Boys Show.
Welcome to the White Boys Show. Here's my guest, Mike Warren.
And then like I had my friend, one of my neighborhood friends, sit there as like as a guest, like how he did. And I had like my own little Tom Green show, and we recorded it, and then we like put it together. We edited on the camcorder, and then we went around the whole neighborhood showing everybody, all their parents and everything. And I was getting laughs everywhere. Like, my friend's dad was dying. I was showing everyone, and they were all like, "It's so silly." And then I showed my parents, and they were so embarrassed. They were like, "You showed everyone this?" I was like, "Yeah."
Hello. So you need a plumber at 9016 21st Street. Well, I'm Mr. Plumber. I'm coming over right now. Your name, Mr. Plumber? Here I am. Oh. Seems to be the problem.
There's a clog in the bathtub.
I kind of,
Did you get it yet?
You got doodle here. You got doodle. Doodle. I got doodle.
And they're like, "Oh my God." They're like, "I can't believe you're doing this. It's ridiculous." But looking back, it was so funny. So one of my first influences, I guess, for me was Tom Green, because that was the first time I was like trying to make something. He was like, you know what I mean? So, I mean, obviously I was influenced through like Will Ferrell and Jim Carrey, and then seeing what stand-up I saw. But like, he was the ultimate first influence I had, which is crazy just talking about it right now, because like now here we are. I've been in LA 10 years, and like I'm friends with all these people I looked up to at one point. Like it's really crazy. Like talking about like watching Half Baked. Like Harlan Williams was in that movie, and right before this fucking coronavirus started, I was gonna go do a weekend with him in Oxnard. Like that's fucking crazy. Like I was gonna open for Harlan Williams, a guy who I was watching in a movie that I loved, that I was like, oh my God, I would go around and do the Jim Brewer impression, who I've met before, who was the first comedian I watched do an hour in LA when I got here. That first weekend he was doing the improv, I went and watched him, and I have a picture with him. I'll find it, and then I'll obviously upload it right here to my right. It's very blurry, but I remember being so nervous taking a picture with him. It's all so surreal. And I think this the part of the reason I'm doing this is important to think about the little wins you get in life that you forget about. Like I'll sit here sometimes, and even in my career and before this whole coronavirus thing was happening, I would sit around and be like, am I doing enough? Nothing's happening. You know, so many of us are like, well, how come I can't get shit? How come the industry isn't fucking with me? You know, you'll find excuses, but you try to put your blockers on and go, put your head down, just keep creating shit and keep going. That's all I can do, right? But then when I'm even thinking about this right now, talking about it out loud, I'm like, holy shit! Like I remember shaking next to Jim Brewer, and now it's like I'm one of the guys. I'm a comic now. It's just like it's weird to think like you forget about the little things you had, or how like I was nervous to meet Nick Swartz and then do a show with him, and now like I've gone out with him, like we've had drinks together. I have his number, like just like he's a friend, like you know what I mean. Like it you don't even think that that's possible 10 years ago. And here I am 10 years later. I forgot that I even had that mentality. So that's fucking crazy. So going back to like the Tom Green videos, I was making those, which I'll obviously I'm gonna cut in clips of some of the things I did on there. So that was really fucking cool. So I was making those videos, and then the kid Joe said that, and I was like, I want to be a comedian. But then the thing that happens was you go to high school, and I'm a class clown in high school, and then you start realizing like, oh, I have to go to college. Like I don't want to be one of these losers who doesn't go to college, and I stay at home with my parents, and I get a job locally, and then like I just that scared me. It seemed like, that's not the life I want. Like I want to go to college, and then the whole dream of being a stand-up and an actor, because in high school I was in drama. I took all my drama classes, and I was afraid to do plays. I didn't want to do plays because I didn't want people to think I was gay. That's how times were different. This is 99, 2000, 2001, 2000. I graduated high school 2003. I literally didn't want to do some plays. Like I was a little self-conscious about it because that was the stigma, which is so stupid. But I was in drama, but I wanted to do like comedy things. Like, but in drama 3 you had to do a play, so I had some small parts. Like I was Jack in the Trial of the Big Bad Wolves. I was Jack from Jack and Jill. But the thing was, I remember my drama teacher. There was 2 other guys that we were like silly with. We were funny. We were like comedians. We wanted to be comedians. We asked the teacher, like during certain exercises, if we could go play Whose Line Is It Anyways in the corner.
Through to serve my troops in Grenada.
Yeah, that's a good excuse.
I didn't fight, I just served my troops.
Yeah, I know. Because you didn't have a college education.
That's right. We put 50 songs about college life on the 50 CDs.
How many CDs is that a song?
Well, that's...
And we would that was another show. I loved playing Whose Line Is It Anyways? And we'd fucking play it all the time in drama class. She would let us play it, and it was really cool. And so that I was in drama in high school, and then by senior year, I got into work. Like I was into like working out and women, and then I was also into like college. I was like, oh, I visited my sister in college, which is kind of what saved my life in a way, because freshman year of high school I was a degenerate. I was just like smoking weed, playing video games, because I was a late bloomer. I didn't start puberty till I was like 15, 16. It was really late, and I didn't grow, so I became bad at sports, because I was always good at sports, and I also had the dream of being a professional athlete, but who doesn't? But I remember I was like not getting good grades, And then I visited my sister in college. She went to UCF, and I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. Like, to live with your friends, and you could play video games, and you could smoke weed, and you go out. I was like, I got to do this. So by junior year, I was like, whatever I have to do to get good grades to let to make my mom believe that it's okay if I go away to college. And that's what I did. And then I went away to FSU. And at that point, I wasn't even thinking about being an actor or stand-up because it wasn't realistic. I grew up in South Florida, and it was like, well, you're not going to do that. You're not going to live in LA or New York. Like, that's not real. That's just a dream. Just like being a professional athlete. That's not real. You're never going to be a professional athlete. It's just a dream. You know what I mean? And then you grow out of it and you realize like, oh, that's so hard. Be realistic. You're never going to be able to do that. That's how everybody is. Everybody's like, be realistic. You're not really going to be able to do that. There's no way. And I did that, and I went to college, and even in college, I was silly, and I was class clown, and we would watch comedy specials. We'd watch Curb. Curb started when I was in college, and we'd watch Dane Cook. So that's when we were watching Cat Williams and Dane Cook. Those were the two biggest comics in the world at the time, and I loved Dane. And I was watching all his shit, and everybody would even send me his shit. I remember when his first half hour of Comedy Central presents, one of my girlfriends sent me, not a girlfriend, a girlfriend sent me she had it on DVD. She's like, this guy reminds me of you. You got to see him. Like, and I was like, okay. And I watched him. I was like, God, this guy's hilarious. And he was so big that all of us were watching it. We would watch his fucking stuff at our house together. So in my head, I was like, oh man, I still had it. I remember being like, oh, that would be fun to do. And we even went to a comedy show. There was a comedy club in Tallahassee, but it wasn't open anymore. It's not anymore. But I forgot what it was called. But we even went to a show. I wish I knew who I fucking saw there, because I wonder if they're doing well now, or if they're still doing it, or if it was, who. I wish I knew who it was. But I also wish I started in college, but it doesn't matter, because the experiences you get from not doing stand-up are what you'll talk about when you do stand-up later on. So there's no regret of, oh, I wish I started early. You start when you start, and that's your journey. But anyways, it just wasn't possible, and I was in college, and I graduated college, and when I graduate college, I realized you got to go in the real world, and part of me, was still thought about stand-up, but it's just like, it's not a real thing you could really do. Like, it's not real, man. You gotta be regular and do life. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at some notes I have to remind me of what I need to talk about. But it's not like a real life tangible thing you could do. You gotta get a real life job. But in college, I had no plan. I was just like taking classes, filtering into whatever classes I could take that pass. I just want to graduate college because it was for my mom. I was like, okay, Mom, I'll graduate college for you. That's who it was for. Most mothers want their kids to graduate college because it gives them affirmation. My mom can go around and be like, I had 2 kids graduate college. Then she says, I did a good job. That's for her. She's like, I did a good job. I did it. All that shit was for her. But if it was up to me, I just went for a good fucking time. I had no goals or aspirations to be like, I was like, oh, maybe I want to be involved in sports. Like I love sports. Maybe how do I work for a team? Let me go into sports medicine. Not a thing I could do. Wasn't a good student. So then I graduate college. I go through a breakup. I'm bouncing around these sales jobs. I had this one sales job. It was at MedSearch in South Florida, and I had got my buddy AJ, one of my best friends still today, a job there because he was going to go to grad school. He's now a pharmacist. So he's like, oh, he knew he wanted to go into that. He graduated UF, then he came down to South Florida. I got him a job at MedSearch with me, and it was inside medical sales. And it's a small company. Maybe there's like 20 of us on the sales force, just cold calling hospitals, scamming them, just being like, hey, there's a shortage of this fucking Zemron, and then we'd try to upsell them and make money off them. It's a fucking scam. I don't know if that kind of business is around anymore. It's called like secondary wholesalers, like like wholesalers, like the pharmaceutical companies. They sell drugs to the hospitals, and every hospital has a pharmacy, and then there's a buyer, and we would have like stocked up stuff that maybe sometimes wholesalers ran out of, and then we would try to sell to the hospitals for a marked up price, and then that's how we'd make our money. So I got my buddy a job there, and this is my first time when I really thought about like, okay, I don't want to be in this real world bullshit, and I want to go to fucking LA. And do stand up. And the reason was because I would stand up, and we're all in these cubicles, and I don't even remember what I was saying, but I would stand up and like riff some shit and just make everyone laugh. I would stand up and everybody look up, like when we had time, when we came back from lunch or in the morning, and I'd like talk about ideas and get laughs, and people would laugh. And my buddy AJ was there, and he was like, God, that's really funny. Do that. And he was pushing me. He was like, man, he's like, that's really funny. He's like, dude, I'm telling you, you should. I think he was like, you should do stand up. He's like, you're funny. You should do it. You should do it. Like I would always be doing it, and I'll never forget, man. He was pushing me towards that. He was like, dude, he would loved watching me, and I would stand up, and I don't even remember what I would say, but I would like make everyone laugh, and I was like, yeah, maybe I should. And mentally and emotionally, I was fucked up through a breakup. I wasn't happy. I wasn't making money. I ended up getting fired from this job because I was horsing around. And I was bouncing around all these jobs. And my mom was supporting me, and she was getting frustrated. So one day I called her, and I was like, how about this? I'll move home with you for like 3-4 months. I'll get a job at a restaurant around where she lives. I got a job at Macaroni Grill. No, Carrabba's. I got a job at Carrabba's. And I was like, I'll move to LA, and I'm going to try to do stand-up. And she was like, okay, whatever. At least for the first time in your life, she said, for the first time in your life, you're actually like, you have a plan. You want to do something. So that's what I'll do. So I move home. I live with my mom and dad for like 4 months. I'm waiting tables at Carrabba's, and I'm just saving. I saved $3-4 grand to move out to LA. And I had a couple buddies that lived in LA that I was like, I'm going to go move out there and just start doing open mics and do stand up. So I literally, saved everything, and in the process, I made one of my best friends drive with me. I was like, I'll buy your flight back to Florida, just drive with me across the country. So I was like, let's film this. Let's film me saying goodbye to my mom. And
All right, guys. Bye.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Love you, miss you. Use common sense.
I will.
Okay, common sense, Michael, when you do things.
Bye.
All right.
and I have all this footage of me leaving Florida.
Hey, Wade. The night before we get to go on the road trip to hell.
We might make it, we might not.
How you doing, Wade? Still with us?
And driving across the country. Like we stopped in Tallahassee, then New Orleans.
Stuck here in the middle of Louisiana, just south of the border of Texas. AAA to come? Waiting for AAA to come.
Then somewhere in Texas. Then New Mexico. Arizona, the Grand Canyon. Vegas, LA. And it took about a week, but I think I left on like April, the 10th or 11th. And then we a week from, I left on like April 10th or 11th, 2010. And it took us a week. Our first two, we ended up staying 2 nights in Tallahassee, fucking around. And that was that was like, all right, let's get to fucking LA. And it was it took a week, and I got to LA April 18th, 2010. So that's what brings this whole idea. So that's where I got the idea of moving to LA and wanting to be a comedian. And then I think the point is I get to fucking LA, and I had known my buddy Alex. He was from my fraternity. My buddy Memphis, who at the time he had just done Big Brother. He came in second place. His name's Memphis. He doesn't even live here anymore. He lives back in Florida. But I owe him everything because he got me my first job at the nightclubs here. So I was set up financially to like have a job. And then my buddy Alex, I lived with. I was going to live with my buddy Alex, so I had somewhere to live. And then outside of that, I knew my sister's friend out here. She still lives out here, but I don't talk to her a lot. But her name's Marie. She works at like UCB. And she was like, here, sign up for this class. I was already signed up for a class, UCB 101. It's improv. For that first week, right when I got out there, I was going to be in class already. So I had a job. I was going to be in an improv class because I wanted to be an actor, whatever. And then I had a place to live. So I got out there. Before I got out there, when I was living at home, I started watching stand-up online, like all stand-up. I started looking it up. I was like, let me look up stand-up, because at this time, YouTube's relatively new. You know, it's four years in or whatever. But there's videos out there. And I have this piece of paper, and I wish I could find it. Maybe if I found it. I was writing down the comedians I was watching and then stars next to their name, what I thought was funny. And at that time, in 2010, I also remember Joe Coy's special came out on Comedy Central. He had this hour special, and I was watching a lot of that too. I was like, wow, that's really funny. But I was just trying to learn stand-up. I was watching all these different comedians, and I'm gonna find the the piece of paper, because I was writing down all these ideas of what I thought was funny. I go, this is funny, because I had these ideas I was writing down for years, since high school to college, of like things that I thought were funny. So if I have this piece of paper, it would be fun to just look what comedians I wrote down and see if I even know them today, of who I thought was funny, whether I found their videos just Googling stand-up. And so I was watching stand-up to kind of get an idea of it. And I thought this UCB thing was like going to help me do stand-up. But I moved to LA, and I don't know how to do stand-up. I don't know how I found open mics. I guess I had figured it out before I got to LA, of looking up how to do open mics. But I have an open mic that I have an idea of going to. So it was called IO West, and it's not open anymore, but it was on Hollywood Boulevard, and they had this open mic on Sunday nights at like 9 p.m., 10 p.m. And I went to it 2 weeks in a row and just watched, because I was like, let me watch these people do it, and let me see what they're doing, and maybe it will give me confidence to just try it. I knew this is it. Like, I moved to LA. I committed to moving to LA. Everybody knows I'm in LA. So like, I have to do it. I said I'm going to do it. Let's do it. So I remember like the third week I signed up, and I had written out this joke, and I still remember it today. I still have the piece of paper of of what I was going to do, like what I thought was funny at the time. And I went on stage, and I recorded it, and I think I ended up getting off stage at like 2 minutes. And I remember the host of the mic was Jade Catapretta. And you could look her up now. She's very funny and talented, and she's still around, and she's working all the time. And she was the host of it, and she brought me up. And then I also remember that I was like so nervous, but I was so happy I did it. And then I didn't do it again until like May. The second time I ever did stand-up, there was this place called Marty's. And Marty's lasted for like 8 years. And it was like you paid $5 and you could go up. And it was like a joke gym. Sunday, 7 days a week, 5 to 11 p.m. Just go. And you could go do stand-up there. And that was this. I found this place. I guess I found a website that would just have where open mics were. And this is where I did my second open mic. And this is in May. And I have the footage, and I'll obviously post it. And this is the first grind of the open mics, okay? So this is my first time doing my second time ever on stage, and the only footage I have of my first, I don't have the first time, I can't find it, but I have my second time ever on stage, and this is it.
Say it again.
Michael.
Oh, Mike. Let's go, Mike. Yeah. Yeah.
It's my second time ever doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't even know how to use this thing. I feel like a girl trying to give a blowjob for the first time. And then you got Ben Roethlisberger. What is he, sexually assaulting these girls? I'll be honest, I don't even know what sexually assaulting someone is. I know what assaulting someone is, but sexually assaulting? I guess I just picture him beating a girl with his dick. I don't know. I mean, I suppose if I was to do it, that's a misdemeanor. And if Shaq's to do that, then that's like attempted murder, probably. I guess I just picture Ben Roethlisberger out there just like, beating a girl with a dick in her face. I suppose if I was to do it, it's just like, That's not so bad. That's like a misdemeanor.
Right.
Shaq's doing it. Oh my God, she's fucking bleeding out of her ears. That's a fucking attempted murder. That's it, I guess.
You done?
Yeah.
Yeah, Marty! Bring your ass!
Okay.
There you go, Marty. You want my ass? Good job, man. That's the second time ever performing?
Yeah.
You gotta make it.
Yeah.
And Justin Hires said so. When I'm a celebrity, they'll be like, Justin Hires told me.
And this is the joke I did. And that would be the last time I did stand-up, because then I was in the improv class. And then I eventually would go and do stand-up for my first official time show was September 28th, 2010. And that's my anniversary every year. So September 28th, 2010 is when I do stand-up. So there's a little pause. So then from like May, June, July, August, 4 months, I'm not doing stand-up because I'm in improv class and I'm working and I'm just like kind of writing. And I think I must have done a couple I definitely did a couple open mics in between. So I probably had done like 4 or 5 open mics. But then I took a stand-up class. Her name was Leslie Wolf, and she has a stand-up club still. And it was a 6-week stand-up class. And at the end of the 6 weeks, you have a show where all your friends come and you perform for them. So I signed up for this stand-up class, and it started in August. So May I did the second open mic, and maybe June and July I was doing the improv class, because the improv class I think was 8 weeks. So that was all of June and July. So I'm doing that. So I'm trying to fill in the time. But my stand-up showcase, and I have a picture. In my head I was like, this is funny. I'm going to wear suspenders, and this is the outfit I'm going to wear. Like, you have this idea of what you're supposed to look like, and that on that first time ever doing stand-up was at the improv, the first show. And I put a set together that you learn in this class, and then Nick Swartzen closed it out. So, and then I have a picture with him, and I have that picture. I'll show you. And that was like, that's the minute I remember there was a crowd. It was my first time doing stand up in front of a crowd that wasn't an open mic. And I remember there was a guy, she was supposed to have someone go on the show, like pros do the show to warm it up for us. And they canceled, and she said to me, she's like, I'm gonna have you go first after I host, because I think you'll have the highest energy. I think you're the best opportunity to go first. That's what she told me. And I remember right before she did, my heart was racing so fast that I was like, this is it. This is the no turning. That was the moment I go, the minute you go on stage, there's no turning back. You set out a goal to do this, and you're going to do this, and you're going to get successful at it, and you're going to get good at it, and you know you are, and you're going to believe in yourself. And I was so terrified, and I went on stage, and I did it. And I remember, I wish I had this footage. I don't. But I remember I got off stage, and I was like, I never want to stop doing that for the rest of my life. Even if it was bad, there was enough affirmation. You're so delusional that you got enough laughs to make you go, I'm never going to not do this again. And I never, I immediately emailed her the next day. I go, how do I keep doing this every day? And then she gave me names of bringer shows, and we'll get into that. And then I start learning about open mics and how the people I met, and then the process of the open mic process. And I think I'll get into that in part 2. But I think this was a good part 1, because I don't want to go too long, and I think that this will probably go over an hour with when I edit all the footage in there and stuff. So I think this is pretty interesting, and I think I'll stop there, and then we'll carry on in the next episode. But yeah, so this is the end of part 1 of my 10 years in LA, and I think that's what this series will be called, 10 years later in LA. And I hope you guys enjoy it, and I'd love your feedback. So again, feel free to DM the Takeover Pod on Instagram, or hit me up on Twitter. Please leave those 5-star reviews. And again, if you're not watching, check it out too. Watch too. I need listens as well on Apple Podcasts, but I check out my YouTube channel. and check out, subscribe and check out all the videos, because I have stand up on there, and I have all the podcast videos, and these are definitely episodes that you're gonna want to watch, because I'm gonna put up a lot of old videos, so that will be cool. So I appreciate you guys. Hang in there, man. I know that we are in this, and it sucks, but we all have each other together. You have your family. FaceTime your friends. FaceTime your family. That helps. I've been doing that a lot. I play online poker. I've been playing video games. I have roommates, but you learn to cook. And I'm doing this, man. I hope this is something that you guys enjoy, and I don't know how this could be 2, 3. This will definitely be maybe 3 parts at least. So thank you for listening, and tune in to the next episode, which I'll drop, I don't know, later this week, next week, whatever. But thank you guys. I'll see you later.